when it comes to color variants in my collection for superheroes. For the most part, I'm only going to be picking up characters that still fit in the universe and are, canon to different suits that they've had, whether it's Quicksilver with the green there instead of the light blue, and of course the Thunderbolts Venom, which is one of the teams that I wanted to build. Today's going to be a little different though. I have the BrickBangers Thunderbolt Wave 1 minifigures that are all in a variant, so let's check out the packaging, which is going to be in a bit of a larger plastic container than normal customs. I did buy the second hand though, so I'm not 100% sure if this is how Jaka shipped them for BrickBangers, but is going to have all 4 of the members, which were originally offered by Tracy as a sort of way to use your membership points for different purchases. So very hard to get a full set of these. I was lucky to get these all on secondhand post. So saw them for basically retail, had to grab at least one color set. There was also the pink one on there too, so maybe I should have gotten both, but didn't want to be super greedy and give somebody else a chance. But again, all 4 of the members from this wave. Let's go into the review, starting with the, easiest one to look at since it has the least amount of accessories. We got Yelena here in lavender like all the other ones with, I guess, kind of a darker lavender. I don't know the exact colors, what you would want to call these. Maybe lilac of some sort somewhere, but it is really interesting to see these printed in completely unique colors. Nothing really carries over other than I'm assuming the like silver there on the different belt buckles. Heads are going to still be flesh. I guess it would have been kind of fun to see those printed on unique colors too. Do really like the molded hairpiece here, and I think it fits pretty well for her. And I know when these base figures were out, I do think this was the kind of character I was definitely considering the most picking up, since I feel like Lego's not going to come close to this. The sort of eyeshadow at the bottom of the eyes there looks really nice. So I felt like the likeness was very good here. The hairpiece was very good for portraying her, since Lego would probably just reuse something and wouldn't look as good. And for this being, I think, originally on the base design, like a $35-ish retail, it still has a very good amount of print where there is printing on the sleeves with some nice wrinkles. Kind of reminds me of an X-Wing pilot sort of jumpsuit look from Star Wars, with the shoulder pad up there with the logo pretty much mirrored on the other side. The widow stings on the wrists, I believe, and even continues to the legs where there is nice printing. I'm sure we'll see this on all of them where it is implied to be dual molded, but obviously printed. So that looks nice. No printing on the back of the legs though. I don't think we're really missing anything there, but I do think it's like a nice little transition from the torso to the legs with some seam lines for the jumpsuit. On the back, where her 2 different weapons would be. No accessories included to actually have those, but just grab some Lego bars and it'll be good to go. And again, it's just really interesting to see this all in that pink color instead of, I believe the base color for this was dark bluish gray, and it would probably be like black pretty much instead of the darker purple we're seeing there. So it looks cool, especially with it being such a unique piece. Holster on the leg looks nice, and if this was the normal minifigure, I'd be pretty happy with the design here, the amount of printing. Especially with the turnaround, I feel like this one came out within 6 months of the pre-order, so that's a pretty good window. There's even more though. You've got to remove the hairpiece, turn around the head, and there's alternate expression. This one's a lot more serious with a bit of a frown on it. The other one could be like a little bit more of a shocked look, I guess. So, got to decide what you would want. Probably this one for me as the main display. Hairpiece goes on pretty easily. It's a little bit tight to actually get it to fit all the way down on the head, unfortunately, but you're able to get it off. It's a little bit better than most of the Jaka brick hairpieces I've dealt with. It's a nice little figure. Let's check out the next one, which will be Red Guardian with 2 custom molds here, one for the beard, one for the helmet, which is going to be reused for Walker as well. So there's a little bit more color going on since it has the sort of lilac base, darker lilac, and then purple as well for the darker accents. Silver continues from the, I'm assuming, base minifigure, which obviously would have been dark red. But I think this one is very cool, especially with the extra color being included. Again, printed arms with some nice shoulder pad detailing, stitching throughout, wrinkles, so that's going to be consistent through everybody. And I do think the design language for all these minifigures is very nice and consistent, so nice job by BrickBangers for making a very coherent series of characters all from the same movie. So, it makes sense that they would be very similar. A little bit of toe printing, nothing crazy detailed there. And I feel like the alignment on the edges of the legs doesn't line up super great. I'm sure they're trying to imitate the Lego design philosophy, which I think is stupid at this point. If you're printing a custom like this, make the like corners line up. Just because Lego doesn't do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. That's going to be one of my complaints for a lot of these designs. And for some reason, all these brands are going through all the effort to custom print things and making them purposely worse just because Lego does it that way. That's definitely not something I agree with. You know, when it comes to like wraparound arm printing, you know, that's not going to like ruin a figure for me, but something like the shoulder pad being printed slightly down so it's not covering the arm, I don't know. Some of the times I think it's a bad look and stupid, and I don't know if it's necessarily the case here where like the shoulder pads would be sewn on and wouldn't be like a consistent piece from like the end of the suit there. So I'm not sure how I feel about it in this case, but like the legs, there's no reason why like a figure like this, why is there a gap around there? When you look at it from the front, kind of angling it like that, it looks bad and it doesn't have to be that way. So, you know, just a little bit of a rant there. No printing on the back of the legs again. Don't remember if I already showed this off, but just like Yelena, you got the wraparound boots. So, you know, there are some really nice details, but also some stuff that, like, again, I just think could be done better. And I don't know why they want to cut corners just because Lego does it at like a mass scale for, you know, cheaper. We're spending a lot of money. It's an expensive process to make customs. Please just make the best version you can, especially if you're already going through the resources to make all of the custom pads for this. I don't, again, understand why you wouldn't want to make it as seamless as possible. Beard, you know, has a little bit of printing on there with some gray, so that looks nice too. Or I guess it's more of a dark tan, but you know, it's nice to have a little bit of extra color there. I mean, I feel like it's pretty accurate, so good that they included it. A little bit of a star and some extra stitching on the top of the helmet there, so that looks nice again. The purple, I really like purple. It's my main color that I collect, so good to get some random thing in that to look at. Take off the helmet, you got a really nice face print there that matches up pretty seamlessly with the beard, but there's no friction here, so it's just going to wobble around. And even worse, you get to the back of the head and there's an alternative face print. Definitely would have been better to get two heads here. Probably wouldn't even driven up the price that much. Maybe it would have been like an extra $1 per figure. I think that definitely would have been worth it, so you could have an unmasked look. Since you turn around the head or body now, you have a face showing. So if you're just doing straight on photography, not going to be an issue, but if you're doing a mock of some sort, you know, that is going to be showing. For most of the movie, he does have the mask on, so I guess, you know, not a huge issue. But I do think the face options here are both really good. You got the more serious looking one here, which, you know, could be used for a lot of different characters if you wanted to throw this on a random grunt. Honestly, not super far off of like Obadiah Stane for my memory of what that character should look like. And then the more smiling one here, which I feel like could be, again, pretty accurate for this character. So depending on the scenario you want to put the character in, if you're doing a scene of some sort, you know, you got two options. I think that's great. Back of the torso, again, looks nice with the different straps that would wrap around to the front. Lots of pouches. This guy could fit in the 90s for sure. I'll just throw on the helmet again with the other expression. Like I said, I think it's a little bit weird that the beard is so wobbly, doesn't fit around the neck peg as well as it could. And getting the helmet back on, there is just enough space to see the mouth between the beard and the helmet, and the eyes still fit perfectly. So both expressions look very good with all the parts on. I guess it's a little ugly to see the brown wrapping around the neck too, but I guess that could be like a chin strap of some sort like Captain America has, so not the worst thing, but another fun character. We got two more to look at. We'll go to Walker, since this does have a little bit of reuse, since it has the same molded helmet that we had for Red Guardian, which makes sense. It's based off of the Captain America helmet that Lego makes, so definitely fits here. And I guess Alexei would also be a copy of Captain America, so it fits in the universe. If you think about it, I want to say this one probably has the most amount of colors, since we have the base, light, lilac, purple, whatever you want to call it, dark purple, the darker lilac, and then also white on top of the silver on the torso. And I guess even with the dark gray shield here, even more different examples of color, since I don't believe the lighter purple on here matches anything. So lots to be excited about here. You got like some nice silver for the wings on the helmet there. It's also going to be a double-sided face, so two different options. We'll get to that. One inaccuracy with the one arm here with the flag, it should be facing backwards, which was pointed out in the pre-order phase. They fixed it on one arm, didn't fix it on the other, so it is inaccurate with all of the versions of this character that they made, not only the variant, so that's something to point out. A little bit of shoulder pad, I guess, printed there. This will not have the dual molded leg effect since the base plastic would have been black, and I feel like probably makes sense that it would be black boots, black everything on the original design for the character. Again, I pointed out the shield here with some extra colors. Feels like this would be perfect for like a Hawkeye, Kate Bishop figure with the colors. Definitely fits her sort of color scheme, so that's kind of neat. Taking that off just to look at the base figure. Torso, a little bit of star in the corner there. Do really like how the line work is done. I feel like the transitions are very cool. Helmet looks a little bit weird. I don't know if it would look better on the normal version with the actual colors, but probably would have been better if it was just the normal color without all the extra like printed lines. Where again, I'm not sure if it would look better on the normal one. Maybe it would if it was black with like really dark gray. But looks just a little bit weird. Since I don't really remember his helmet having distinct lines on there like that. I already pointed out the inaccuracies on the arm, but I do think that the gauntlet pieces there look kind of cool in the printing, and the line work where there is a little bit of shaping to give the armor plating, different components looks nice, and they're squeezing in a lot of detail in a small area, so good on them for that. Belt looks nice with, again, just a little bit of dividing lines and nothing to complain about other than the transition from the sides to the front of the legs, which Hardy went on a huge rant for. Gonna knock that on all of these minifigures where it could look a little bit better, and having no boot design looks a little bit weird from the back, which again, if they're copying the Lego style, I guess I can get why they go for that, since this is technically like a collectible minifigure style minifigure. Switching out the mask look. This one's the more stern, frowning one. The other one is a more aggressive fighting face. So these are my preferred options for different faces. So you can have him just existing or fighting. I think having these two, kind of opposite faces is the best way to go. So you can have him pretty much any situation. I think that works pretty well. We do have another head as well for the unmasked look, so we'll toss that on too. And I believe these have different faces, so that is nice. They didn't just figure out how to reuse these. This one feels like it's a little bit more of a frown, and we'll also have more beard showing, so it isn't going to just be reuse of some sort. And there's another option too. So I think this minifigure might have the best value out of all of them, since it has the extra head, the shield, and a custom molded helmet, which was reused as a mold already. But let's see right there. I guess that one fits more with this one. So there's no aggressive unmasked look. Hairpiece here, hard to say if it's the most accurate option. I feel like I'd rather have something kind of unique and different than the generic male hairpiece. So not going to really knock hit points there. The medium nougat color for the hair, I feel like could be pretty accurate. When it gets to those like more blonde characters, it's a little hard to say what colors to use. I feel like this is a pretty human looking hair color, and obviously most people would probably just display it with the helmet on, so not going to really matter for a lot of people. Lots of good printing here. I feel like the actual print on the minifigure, maybe a bit of a downgrade since the legs end up being a little bit more plain, but the accessories and the extra head, I feel like there is still a lot of good value here. And as the last figure, we'll have Bucky, which is going to be up there with Yelena as my favorite base design. It doesn't have weird side line printing on the legs, so this will probably be the best set of legs, since the front to side transition is perfect with just that dual molded leg design. Like the other figures that had it, does have the inner leg printing too. Nothing extra on the back of the legs. You got some holster or sheath sort of designs on the back there for some knives. Nice little belt design there that continues to the front. I feel like the back feels a little bit more plain here, and probably would be a little more plain since I think the main torso was black, so it would just be some gray outlines with the belt. A lot more interesting on the front though, where the holster sort of print continues around. Doesn't continue on the back, so I guess it is using some magic to keep it on him. If this was, a real person, I guess it would be kind of in the gap there where the holes for the legs are, so wouldn't have been printed anyway, but it should be a little bit printed on the hip in theory. But again, they're going for the Lego look, so they can cut some corners if they want to. Has another custom molded hairpiece, so I think that is one of the nicer things here where they're designing all these hairpieces. They have the Lego sheen to them, so it is still a nice consistent look between different figures. If you toss this into like an Avengers Doomsday display eventually, obviously they'll have different suits for those movies, but still look very good. And if you wanted to throw these on, I guess for this one I would say like Ultimate Spider-Man for Peter Parker. This minifigure on this torso has no printed arms, but some nice silver throughout for these zippers and the belt buckles again. So everybody's got some nice belt buckles. Like to appreciate those. Some straps going to the back for some reason. I guess it's probably because he has like a bulletproof vest maybe, or these sheaths are connected to like that weird design that they have on the back there as some sort of like vest thing. I don't know. I think the face expression here is pretty good and pretty close to Sebastian Stan versus the official Lego ones that they use and have reused for a bunch of different characters. Kind of a nice little mullet look there. And flipping that headpiece around, we also have this more, stern looking one, or just confused one, I guess. So maybe this is when he's in the garage with the Thunderbolts learning about Sentry. Guess that would fit there. Before I put the hairpiece back on, let's switch out to the other torso, which is another really fun option with the t-shirt look from when he fights Sentry in Avengers Tower. We'll have the same belt design, so that's kind of a nice little bit of continuity, but missing the jacket, obviously. The sleeves are printed on to simulate dual molding, just like the legs, and no extra hands are included, so you'd have to swap those between the different arms if you really wanted to. I do think the transition from the lilac to the flesh tone works very well, and you can barely tell that it isn't dual molded. It's a little bit noticeable on like the back of the arm on the very edge of it, but on the front they added a little bit of extra print on the inside when I took off the arm to look at it, so looks great. A little bit of an extra line there to give the sleeve like the seam line, and nice little bit of wrinkles and on the collar to just make this look like a nice shirt. Probably one of the best parts that they made in this lineup, I would say, is just like a generic something to put on, characters. I don't think the robot arm works as well in the lilac version here than it might on the, I'm going to guess, dark gunmetal plastic they would use on the base one and then print the sleeve on, where it'll just be, that lilac color still as like the base color for the arm. So I just, don't think it works as well, which obviously makes sense. It is a variant, so the base idea on what they wanted to do for that won't translate perfectly in all cases. Both faces here work very well. I think the molded hairpiece also is good, and having the two different torso options is a nice feature. Hard to say who is the best value. I could see this one, or like I said, with Walker without those extra pieces, but it'll kind of be down to who's your favorite character. That'll definitely kind of push your decision. With that being said, let's go to some comparisons and the final verdict. For every amount of, goodwill I have for these figures based on the designs, BrickBangers just keeps missing out on the sort of communication that they need for items like this, where these were delayed by months. And recently Jaka got rid of their website. A bunch of orders got canceled and refunded for the second wave of BrickBangers minifigures without any communication or warning. And it's just really strange to see brands constantly doing that related to Jaka, where they'll just vanish for months with no communication, and that's just really unacceptable. These as variants are very cool. The Tracy rollout was a little confusing, where I think you had to spend like $4,000 on the site to have enough points to get one of these, so you have to be a very committed collector to actually be able to get all of these, since you need all those points. Custom molds here are definitely quality, and overall the prints are also going to be quality, even though, it's not going to be 100% accurate since these are variants. So from what I'm seeing here on these with no real like comparison to an actual object. I think these are all very fun and very colorful. I think they all fit together pretty well, but I'm kind of noticing Yelena right now where she really just has the lighter purple and it's missing a little bit of that darker purple to make it fit in with the other characters. But I don't know, I'm kind of torn with the normal heads. I feel like if you're going with the full different color look, maybe you should swap out the heads as well. But I could see maybe why they wouldn't want to, if that would affect the coloring in some way, or it might look a little worse. I don't know. But I think the hair molds were definitely good. The beard, with the looseness is really the only complaint I have there. And maybe overall just lack of handheld accessories, with Walker really being the only one with the shield. And I guess I would have liked the taco shield as well as an option instead of maybe a normal shield, since I'm assuming that would be a custom mold still. But maybe that would be retooling. Maybe they've already had that shield design for other characters that they've made. And you can see right here with the Bucky face there. This one, I feel like the eyebrow looks great. This is actually a Bucky exclusive head and hasn't been reused since this was the CMF one. Just talking about that CMF quality with the arm printing and all that. Unique print though for the robot arms. It's not like it's not like it's just a rip from an official version. And again, I just think it's really annoying when companies give you an extra torso with no hands. So you have to find your own in your collection or swap them, and taking parts off of a torso or arm is just over time not going to be the best thing. So definitely a little bit of a concern, but is what it is. And getting to the Captain America helmet, I kind of like that they reuse the official one. Fits into the design language very well. And other companies have also kind of done the same sort of style mask. Obviously, like with the Nostalgia Fix one here, but with the wings. I can't remember if this would have come out before the official helmet was used. I don't think so. But there's still like slight differences. So, it's goes a little both ways, where it's kind of nice to use an official part since it kind of keeps it in the design canon, but it is nice to see a little bit of a change up as well. But I'm not going to complain too much. These are fun little things. I'm glad I got them for a pretty good price. But let me know, out of the four, is one of these your favorite? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see more custom Lego Marvel or custom Lego videos overall, check out all the content on my channel. If you want to help out the channel even further, feel free to join as a member for some extra perks. Like always, I have been BrickBangers, and I'll see you in the next video.